Important warning. This program addresses psychological manipulation. The content is educational and condemns unethical uses of hypnosis. Hypnosis, when used therapeutically by trained professionals, is a beneficial method. When Dr. Marcus Williams told me, I shuddered. I could completely control a person in 15 minutes, he said. I would change their decisions without them realizing it. Marcus, who worked as a stage hypnotist for 20 years, confesses today, every hypnosis show you saw wasn't just entertainment. The real purpose was much more frightening. The story I'm going to tell you today isn't just an artist's confession. This is a warning story showing how fragile the human mind can be and how dangerous psychological manipulation can become. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, psychologist and researcher. What Marcus Williams told me reveals the dark uses of psychological science. After listening to this story, you'll understand how important it is to strengthen your mental defense mechanisms. Dr. Marcus Williams contacted me during the 15th year of my clinical career. In his email he wrote, Dr. Chen, I've read your research on hypnosis and psychological manipulation. I worked as a stage hypnotist for 20 years. But I realized what I was doing wasn't ethical. We need to talk. At first I was skeptical. Stage hypnosis is generally considered entertainment and harmless. But when I met with Marcus, I realized the subject was much more complex. I thought I was just entertaining people, he said, with deep regret in his eyes. But what I was doing was much more. I was entering people's subconscious and controlling them. What kind of control? I asked. In complete control. I was changing what they wanted, manipulating their fears, even creating long-term behavioral changes. And worst of all, they weren't even aware of it. When I heard this sentence, I realized that Marcus's story was a case that crossed the ethical boundaries of hypnosis. Marcus explained to me in detail how stage hypnosis worked. This wasn't just simple suggestion, it was a sophisticated psychological manipulation system. First I would analyze the crowd, he said. Who is more open-minded? Who tends to accept authority? Who seeks social approval? I would identify them all. How did you do this? Observation. How people behave before coming on stage, who they came with, what they're wearing, their body language. These gave me that person's psychological profile. What Marcus told me showed that stage hypnosis wasn't random selections. Everything was calculated. The people I brought on stage weren't coincidental, he continued. I selected them beforehand. The people most susceptible to hypnosis, the most easily influenced. So what happened during the stage performance? There was entertainment on the surface, but I was actually making permanent changes in that person's mind. I was undermining their self-confidence, creating dependency on me, even learning their personal information. At this point, what Marcus was telling me began to become disturbing. How did you get a person completely under your control? I asked. Marcus's answer showed how vulnerable the human mind could be. The first stage was creating trust. I couldn't enter their minds unless people trusted me. That's why I used my stage charisma. Second stage, breaking resistance. I was breaking down people's mental defense walls. I did this through suggestion and repetition. Third stage, entering the subconscious. Now I could access that person's deepest fears, desires, secrets. Fourth stage, reprogramming. I was changing that person's thought patterns, behaviors, even personality. Fifth stage, creating permanent impact. I ensured my effects continued even after they came out of hypnosis. This process was frighteningly systematic. How did people become dependent on you? I asked. Marcus's answer was shocking. I made them feel better than themselves. The experience they had during hypnosis was so powerful that they knew they could never feel like that again in their normal lives. What kind of feeling? A feeling of complete control. No anxiety. Perfect confidence. They felt like they had superpowers. Of course this was temporary, but they wanted to experience this feeling constantly. What happened then? They started calling me. They wanted private sessions. They said I want to experience that feeling again. I also did private sessions for money. At this point, I realized that Marcus wasn't just entertaining, he was making people addicted. What were your worst cases? There was a manager. He came every week. He asked me all the decisions of his life. Marriages, business decisions, even child education, everything. What did you do? I made him do what I wanted. He had money, he had influence. I used that too. How much money did you make from this business? I asked. Marcus's numbers were surprising. From stage shows, $3,000, $4,000 monthly. But the real money came from private sessions. There I charged $50. How many private clients did you have? Regularly 30, 40 people. They came once a week. Some paid $1,200. How much did you earn monthly? In my best periods, $25,000, $30,000 monthly. But what was more frightening was how dependent these people became on me. Marcus showed me examples from client files. People came for all kinds of personal problems, work problems, relationship issues, lack of confidence. What was your most tragic case? A 35-year-old woman. Her husband had left her. She came to me and said, "Give me back my confidence." I did hypnosis sessions with her, but actually made her more dependent. What happened? She continued coming to me for 2 years. She paid a total of $15,000. But none of her problems were solved because I wasn't doing real treatment. I was just giving temporary relief. Did hypnosis sessions have permanent effects on people? I asked. Marcus's answer was the most frightening part. Yes. And these were usually negative effects. What kind of negative? People forgot how to make their own decisions. They constantly wanted someone to tell them what to do. They lost their ability to think independently. Other effects: anxiety disorders, identity confusion, reality perception problems. Some thought the experiences they had during hypnosis were real. Marcus told me a case. There was a young man in his 20s. I made him experience past life regression during hypnosis. It was completely fictional, but he thought it was real. Then he needed psychiatric treatment. How did you feel about yourself in this situation? At first I didn't care. I thought it was entertainment. But when people really started getting hurt, I realized I wasn't providing therapy, I was causing harm. What were your most unethical practices? Marcus struggled greatly to answer this question. I was learning people's secrets. They told me everything when they were in a hypnotic state. How did you use this information? Sometimes for blackmail. I especially forced my wealthy clients to pay more money. Other illegal practices: unauthorized sexual behavior. I engaged in inappropriate touching with some female clients during hypnosis. They didn't realize because they were unconscious. These confessions were very serious accusations. Did you report this situation to authorities? No, because I would also confess my own crimes. But I can't carry this burden anymore. After what Marcus told me, I decided to talk to the people who were victims. In accordance with ethical rules, I reached out to some of Marcus's former clients. 42-year-old Jennifer explained, I went to him for 3 years. After each session I felt very good, but this state only lasted a few days. Then I got worse. How do you feel now? I have difficulty making my decisions. I feel like I'm constantly waiting for approval from someone. I'm receiving psychological treatment. 38-year-old David said, after the hypnosis sessions, I started having strange dreams. I have memories that aren't real. I'm experiencing identity confusion. These victim stories showed how harmful what Marcus did was. To evaluate this case, I spoke with Dr. Robert Miller, an expert on hypnosis. What Marcus described is a classic example of hypnosis misuse, he said. Hypnosis is a real phenomenon, but ethical rules must be followed. Is mind control really possible with hypnosis? Partially, yes. But complete control isn't possible. People can't be forced to do things against their values. However, they can be manipulated in vulnerable moments. Are there permanent effects? Improperly applied hypnosis can lead to permanent psychological problems. That's why it should only be done by trained, licensed professionals. Marcus's confessions were accusations with serious legal consequences. Lawyer Amanda Johnson evaluated the situation. Sexual assault, blackmail, fraud, professional ethics violation. The penalty for these is 15 to 20 years imprisonment. Should Marcus turn himself in to authorities? What's right both legally and ethically is this. Victims are seeking justice. Are there similar cases? Unfortunately, many abuse cases under the name of hypnosis, massage therapy are increasing. People should be more careful. After this case, I want to give advice on how people can protect themselves. Prefer licensed professionals. For hypnosis treatment, only apply to licensed psychologists, psychiatrists, or doctors. 2. Get references. Get references from other patients about the person you're going to. 3. Be skeptical. Stay away from people who promise miraculous results. Keep records. Consider recording sessions or having witnesses. Set your boundaries. Stop the session in any situation where you feel uncomfortable. The healing processes of Marcus's victims are also important. Trauma specialist Dr. Lisa Thompson explained. Psychological manipulation victims require special treatment. Trust must be rebuilt, confidence restored. How long does healing take? It varies by case, can take between 6 months and 2 years. Important thing is getting professional help. Is complete recovery possible? Yes, but early intervention is essential. If delayed, it can leave permanent marks. What are you planning to do now? I asked Marcus. I'm going to tell everything to authorities. I'm going to apologize to victims. I'm going to serve the punishment I deserve. Are you sorry? Very sorry, but regret isn't enough. I'm going to try to make amends. Your advice to others? If you need hypnosis, only go to licensed professionals. And if something goes wrong, stop immediately. This case shows the need to create social awareness. Psychology Association President Prof. Dr. Helen Davis evaluated, since these types of cases are increasing, stricter supervision is needed. To protect from fake experts, diploma and license documents should be checked. Chamber of Commerce records should be queried. Ethics Committee complaints should be investigated. Victim rights should be strengthened. Marcus Williams's confessions show how important mind security is. Human psyche is fragile and valuable. As a society, we must be more careful against people who exploit this fragility. Hypnosis in the right hands is a powerful treatment tool. It can heal traumas, treat addictions, increase confidence. But in the wrong hands, it's a dangerous weapon. Marcus's story is a painful but necessary warning. We must protect our minds, defend our values, develop resistance against manipulation. The most important lesson from this case: verify before trusting, research before questioning, and never forget, you are the only owner of your mind. Marcus Williams is regretful and fighting today. He's trying to make amends for the evils he did. Thanks to his courage, the behind the scenes of this dark world has been illuminated. Important note: if you need hypnosis treatment, definitely consult professionals who are licensed and follow ethical rules. This story criticizes not hypnosis itself, but its misuse.